Risotto alla Milanese is our way of celebrating this International Day of Italian Cuisines because all the chefs, the Italian chefs around the world, have decided to say no to bogus Italian cuisine. This is to protect our own customers which are in search of true Italian cuisine. These cubes,
Amami, stringimi, gonfiami.
no good, no use for this preparation of risotto. Here we go, carrots, cold water, half a peel onion, celery stalk, and celery leaves. Flavor everywhere.
Dammi l'ebbrezza nei tendini. Aia.
This is broth. See, the procedure of making this is quite different than stock. We're not braising the bones, we're not braising the vegetables. Everything goes inside a pot with cold water, spices, aromas, vegetables, and the meat. Slowly cooked, nice flavor. And now meat. In this case, we're going to use beef or veal. In this case, shank, beef shank. Why beef shank? Because here we're going to use the bone, a little part of bone. We're going to remove the marrow from the inside and use the same very part of this beef inside the broth, which eventually we're going to use to season and to flavor our risotto. Azafran or saffron, important, very important to make risotto Milanese. Saffron, after all these centuries, has been cultivated in areas such as Sardinia, Sicily, Abruzzo, and Tuscany. In this case, we're using the Tuscan saffron from the province of Arezzo. Beautiful. First of all, we're going to heat it up. This is my method. We're going to heat up these pistils. Heat up a little bit the saffron without burning it, so to release its essential oils. Very carefully. I put it inside this mortar. I add on a little bit of Sicilian salt, a little bit of our broth. The color yellow in the ancient time was a symbol of richness, of wellness, of something bright, and very much used in preparations, sometimes substituted by egg yolks. And now the preparation of risotto. Nice word. What do we have here? Onion, very finely chopped, butter. Don't forget, we are talking about a special dish typical of the northern side of Italy. In Italy, we have two different cultures about fats. One is made with butter in the northern side, and then olive oil, mostly, in the islands in the southern part of Italy. A little butter and a little onions, which we're gonna make translucent on a medium fire. At this point, we have to try to be careful not to overcook it or toast it or let it become too brown, worse, black. Since we have to add rice and also toast it, the two things seems to be like very impossible to do at the same time. So what it is suggested to do is to cook the onion separately and then toast the rice separately, thing that we are going to do now. We have the onion ready. We use the same pan. We have to use the correct rice. In this case, carnaroli has the correct balance of starch, which is neither too much, neither too little, to achieve the correct density when preparing this dish. Carnaroli is considered the king of rice in Italy because it has the correct amount of starch when preparing risotto, which makes the difference among other dishes which are prepared with common rice. And we start toasting the rice. What I'm doing now is letting the rice take a little bit of temperature. I add on a little bit more fat. In this case, unsalted butter. What does it mean toasting? Toasting in this case means creating a coat around each and every one of the grain of the rice. With this very stage, we understand the biggest difference between boiled rice and making a risotto. We can hear this noise, which means that the fat is totally incorporated, and this noise, which is typical of the moment when we have to introduce white wine. How much wine? Enough wine to lift the rice, which will have to basically evaporate instantly. And as soon as the wine is evaporated, and before the rice starts to stick to the pan again, we start using our broth made with meat. The onions, remember, we have the onions with the butter, which we can now add on to our preparation. And now, in small portions, our broth, which we're gonna add to cover the rice a few millimeters, so it can cook, totally absorbing this very flavorful liquid. We let it simmer, not too fast. We have to calculate, since the moment we put the wine, approximately 18 to maximum 20 minutes, depending on the quality of the rice. Add the marrow. I'm gonna quickly simmer this, literally 5 seconds, and then add it on to the risotto. We are reaching the final stage of the preparation of the risotto. The marrow will melt. It will give this nice sweet flavor and fatness, adding to the starch that is slowly releasing the rice while it cooks. If rice starts to stick at the bottom, don't worry. If it burns, then it's a problem. Wine or not wine? Well, this is the dilemma. Italians love dilemma, like the opera, the commedia. And Pellegrino Artusi wrote this book in which different editions he speaks about first not putting the wine or the marrow, and then lately says yes, wine, yes, the marrow. Why? The sweetness of the marrow and the acidity of the white wine, he thought it will very well combine. Now, after the marrow, the saffron with the broth and the salt all together inside the risotto. Beautiful, see? We are reaching the very, very final stage. Now we let it rest aside from the stove, and here is when we add on the last ingredients, which is a little bit of salt, the grated grana cheese, and the last part of the butter. Cold butter, make sure it's cold. It's very important for the emulsion. The three most significant points of making good risotto: that the grain has to be al dente, separate, and very creamy. Now we can begin the mantecatura of the risotto, and this is la onda, the wave. Why the wave? Why la onda? It has to be runny, not mushy, not all like a paste. No, especially when we pour it on the plate, it has to be almost like a sauce, but not soupy. It's supposed to be exactly like this. And now I'm gonna eat it with a spoon, like traditionally it was eaten. Buonissimo. And why is buonissimo? Because it is made following the tradition. Rice is born in water and it dies in wine. Not only while cooking, but also while eating. Salute.
Prendimi,